Last season I exclaimed, is anyone sick of hearing about AI? Surely we can't get enough of it, right? Well, I hope not, because today we're going to tell you all about 5xing your impact through AI. I can assure you don't want to miss today's conversation. And just like the topic, we have an album that still many can't seem to get enough of. Welcome back, everyone, viewers and listeners of the program. This is On the Record. This is our 4th episode of season 3. Michael and I today are joined by the wonderful Rob Walling. Rob, hello.
It's great to be here.
Rob, tell us a little bit about you. Before we get into this topic of AI and its transformative nature, and we talk about Daft Punk, who are you? Why should people care?
Well, I started as a software engineer, didn't like working for other people, unemployable, I think I would call myself today, and eventually started building software products on the side. So I have run SaaS companies, but I've also run an e-commerce website. I've sold information products. I ran an agency. So I have experience across a lot of things, and I think that maybe will be helpful today is when you ask me, although these days I'm immersed in SaaS, I'll try to answer for all business owners, you know?
Yeah, and I jokingly said that because there's a million reasons you should care why you're on the show today. Successful exits, funding of many businesses, many of which are thriving today as well. So Rob, your perspective will suit us well today. And here's a funny little story. You two knew each other before this episode came to life as well.
I have interviewed Rob several times on a podcast I used to host, Rocket Ship FM. Yeah.
Boy, the world spins around in mysterious ways, does it not? No. Excellent. Rob, thank you for joining us. And today it's going to really look a lot about how we leverage AI to maybe 5x your impact as an individual contributor, as a business owner, as a marketer, from a variety of perspectives. And we're going to tie it back to a wonderful record from Daft Punk known as Random Access Memories. And for those that are watching today, you can see something that all of us are quite familiar with. It's the helmet. It's the Daft Punk brand. Yep. Its notoriety is prolific. But we also want to tie it back to what it means to the topic of AI and its transformative nature. Michael, help us out.
Yeah, well, one thing that I think stands out about this album that's different than some of their previous was the guest appearances. And much like we talked about last season with, Beyonce's Lemonade,
yes.
It felt like they were leveraging some of the insights that they had gotten from their previous releases to tap into markets that, they started in this like dance EDM world, right? But they drew fans from some of the indie, some of the, kind of more underground fans of bands like The Strokes, yep. Or he's got Panda Bear from Animal Collective, another album that we're gonna cover, right? And so I felt like they were trying to branch out and acknowledge more of the entirety of their fan base, rather than just keep tapping into that EDM movement, which I felt like came from data insights. Like there's really, they were seeing something that said, yeah, this is a good idea. Now maybe it was just an artistic choice, but it felt very purposeful, and it certainly worked for them.
I know you don't get a chance to take a break this often. I know your life is speeding and it isn't stopping. Here, take my shirt and just go ahead and wipe up on
the album was a huge success, had
Massive.
Broad reaching, and it felt like they were using those insights in the right way to produce something that was very Daft Punk, but also a bit bigger than their previous work.
Yeah, number 1 in 14 countries upon its release. And much like AI has popularized itself, this record certainly did upon launch. So, Rob, you chewed on it a little bit, you listened a little bit. Did anything that spark any interest in you or align it to the topic of choice?
Brought back some memories of it coming out in 2013, I believe you
yes.
said.
Yes.
The thing that I always respected about Daft Punk is in 2013, or whenever any of their albums came out, there were a lot of good albums that came out that year. Mm-hmm. But Daft Punk's branding, their marketing, it was so, it was unique. And when I heard, so I'm into punk music, and so I had never heard of Daft Punk. Daft Punk, I'm gonna listen to it, it's punk. Started listening, this is not punk music, but then you get sucked in by the helmet, you know what I mean? So that's the thing I think I'm impressed with is there's a lot of good bands and there's a lot of good music. That's not enough, right? You have to stand out. That's table stakes. And then how do you market? How do you brand yourself to be, frankly, recognized above the noise?
I love it. We're going to talk a lot about man versus machine, or maybe man and machine working together. In Daft Punk's record, it's exemplary in that regard. They take tools like a vocoder, which is this way of automating and modulating your voice. In a way of which became popular in music. These are things that are very niche, very kind of trendy at most, but they actually interplay where it doesn't matter who's actually inputting the vocal into the vocoder. It could be either the two gentlemen that are in the band. It comes out the same at the end of the day too.
Yeah.
And AI can also mirror a similar path. If we don't give it the right inputs, it might look the same as everything else. So we'll talk about the technology, the practices within it, and how you can apply it to your role or your business as well. So, Rob, I'm looking at you because you are at the forefront of many businesses as they get out of the starting blocks, they get going. What are some of the things that you would lean into most if you're an upstart marketer or an upstart business owner right now? Where can AI impact you the most?
Yeah, I think about AI, and again, it's across whether you're an agency or whether you're e-commerce, whether you're SaaS. I'm invested in 212 SaaS companies, right? So I do have a swath. There's a lot of them out there.
Yeah.
But I break it down into 3 buckets. One is internal operations, right? So this is anything that I'm doing over and over that no customer sees, not customer-facing stuff. Then I think about marketing and sales. This is how do I get more leads, the content generation. We can talk about the dangers of that, but also the good way of doing that. There's sales, cold outreach, right? So marketing and sales. And the third one is in your product delivery. What are you actually providing value? So if it's SaaS, it's the software. If it's consulting, it's the actual work you're doing for clients. And so usually because people get overwhelmed with like, well, AI, I should just use it everywhere. And it's like, well, think about it in these 3 buckets. Internal operations can make you more efficient, but they're not going to get you more business. So if you think about what's the bottleneck in your business, if you don't have enough clients or customers right now, well, then start implementing AI in sales and marketing first, then in the implementation or the product delivery, and then operations maybe is the lowest priority. But if right now you're drowning in invoices and internal operation stuff, we'll start there and you can move around it.
I love that. Michael, what are your feels? How is AI best leveraged in this very moment?
Oh yeah, I mean, look, I think that's absolutely one of the great use cases and unlocks that AI gives us. I think the other is the ability to test and iterate quickly, right? Bringing an idea to life, where we used to need more funding to get something to life. We can now skip some of that early painful point of, I need 3 months to build the product. Maybe you can vibe code it over the weekend, right? Just to get something out to customers, especially in the bootstrap world. That was always a big topic of conversation of, how do I test this? Because if I'm gonna invest all of this time, which is really my own investment into this, I wanna make sure that I'm headed in the right direction. But it used to take us a while to get a site up, to get the basic functionality for the problem we're trying to solve. Now, all of that is speeding up. And so we can leverage it across both our marketing to hit more people at once, but also across the product itself of, okay, maybe that first idea wasn't it, but give me another couple days and I can get another iteration out, which is so much faster than it used to be 10, 15 years ago.
It's a fascinating time for a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
We're seeing a lot of headlines right now that are suggesting 5x, 10x your impact. Rob, is it true? Is it real? And if so, are you seeing it amongst all your businesses?
I am, yeah.
You are?
I mean, yeah, so in software development in particular, your friend of mine, Derek Reimer, co-founder of Drip, a company we used to work with, he is all in saying AI has me coding 5 or 10 times faster. And that guy is one of the best developers I've ever known, right?
Yep.
And so now I have heard, a friend of mine told me an anecdote about a company with like 150 developers, so juniors, mid-level, and seniors. And they basically banned the juniors from using AI because they're misusing it. So this is the dangers, and they're like generating a bunch of code with AI and then submitting the pull request. And that's a problem, right? So then the seniors get overwhelmed. So there is a balance here. But yeah, 5 to 10x. On my team, we create a ton of content. We record a YouTube video every other week, 52 podcast episodes a year. And we're funding a lot of companies, which of course requires a lot of looking at fuzzy data, right? It's not things I can just, load into a spreadsheet, so to speak, but I can kind of have AI do it. And it has definitely dramatically reduced the amount of hours that we need to spend doing it.
I love that. Michael, your belief, 5 and 10x, are you seeing it at Lead Pages? And if not, do you see a future of which that might be happening soon?
Yeah, I mean, look, our whole dev team is using these kind of enhancements. We're trying to figure out, though, to the same point, right? It's not flawless. It still needs a human involvement, but it does help with testing. It does help with some of those tasks. Kind of like you're buried in invoices. Developers are often buried in testing. They're buried in the non-creative side of the work. And AI really helps to unlock their time so that it can write the unit tests while they continue to do the creative kind of production.
Yeah.
And so we are seeing it. It is now a requirement that everyone is leveraging it. And it's been a huge unlock.
Just in the last 24 hours, the CEO of Shopify, Toby, he said, he just said a mandate across their company, before you hire anyone, you have to explain why AI can't do that job. It's an interesting paradigm.
Wow.
So if you're a solopreneur, you're just going to probably get the work of maybe 2 or 3 people, that you would have need to hire.
Correct.
But if you're a bigger org, maybe you don't need to lay people off. Maybe you don't need to hire as quickly, right? So it's really interesting. I mean, if they're doing it at that scale, it's moving the needle, right? They don't make decisions by accident out there.
No, clearly. Wow, that's astonishing soundbite, but it makes a ton of sense as well.
Yeah.
A lot of listeners, so AI is thrown around so loosely, but you guys are right at the forefront of the technology that is being employed at operational levels, sales and marketing levels. Rob, are there some point solutions people should be looking at right now that enables this 5x, this 10x stuff? And if so, could you name drop?
Yeah, I mean, so it depends on what folks are struggling with. It's always what's that bottleneck for you, right?
Sure.
So for me, my email inbox is a disaster because I'm technically a venture capitalist. I don't like saying that, but I've invested in 200 companies, so eventually I have to admit. So there's a couple solutions out there. I use Fixer, FYXER.ai, and then there's one called Inbox Zero. It's at getinboxzero.com, and you link them into your inbox, and it categorizes it. It spins up a reply that you then get to approve or edit. It takes all the cold outreach. I mean, my inbox is filled with cold outreach, and Google Gmail is not filtering that, right? So the AI is smart enough to put it in a probably cold outreach thing, and I go through and I can just delete quickly. Yeah. So that's like a really quick one, given how much time I spend in my inbox. And of course, if you're writing software, Windsurf and Cursor are these tools that are kind of used across the world now.
Yeah.
I love that. Michael, do you have some favorite tools of choice that you're asking the team to use, or you've been around or experimented with?
I mean, internally we're using Cursor. We're using GitHub Copilot, right?
Yep.
So on the development side, we're using a lot of ChatGPT deep research to do kind of initial idea generation or research on a market segment. As we're expanding, right, we're no longer just a landing page builder. We're now more of a conversion optimization tool, a data tool. So we're touching on different markets, and we're now competing with companies that we're not as familiar with. And so it really does help to speed up that, get something on paper and get something that we can start to make decisions against. We don't have an internal researcher. We don't have a market analyst, right? So it's giving us these capabilities for us to move faster rather than taking a week to do the research. We can kind of get it in 20 minutes, and it's usually good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I want to dive in a little bit to something that most people are pretty familiar right now. It's agentic AI, right? It's the year of the agents, and it probably will be for this year and well beyond. Rob, how are you seeing it used in some of your businesses? Is it too soon, or is it time now? And if so, what's it look like?
I think we're getting there.
Yeah, it's complicated stuff. Yeah,
it is. I think we're at the forefront. I think if you're not using AI today and you're kind of listening to this, thinking, how should I dip my toe in? I don't know that agentic is there yet.
It's deep.
I think we're thinking 6 months out, 12 months out. Really, agentic AI agents, I think of them as like, it's kind of like having ChatGPT that gets pinged, right? It gets a webhook and it does something, or it's polling. I mean, it's like Zapier plus AI is how I think about it, right? It's automation. So at this point, it's not much more complicated than that. Almost anything that pretty much anything I've seen that you can do with agentic AI, I can manually go in and just do with a chat interface, you know, whether it's Claude or Perplexity. I am seeing folks use it in kind of novel ways, but I don't know that I would put a bunch of time into it yet, but I do think the time is coming for things to be, it's just going to automate things more. Instead of right now, we record a podcast episode, for example, we upload it to PodSqueeze, and PodSqueeze does the full transcript, then the timestamps, then the show notes, then links out to all the things, writes a tweet with @mentions of everyone who, you know what I mean? It's like, it does we used to have a person take 4, 5, 6 hours to do that, right? Now that's done. Agentic AI can just make it so, we don't have the upload step and you don't have some other things, but it's to me, it's still a rounding error. I think it's where we're headed, but it's not a panacea yet.
Yeah.
That's what I think about
Any
it.
feels on agentic AI yet?
Yeah, I very much echo it. It doesn't feel quite ready, but it will be. And we were saying this about image generation and video generation a year ago, and now look at us, right? Now you can barely tell the difference. So I think it's something that we should all be informed about. We should absolutely be researching, starting to set up light processes. I've even tried to use it in my personal life. There's a app Mantis that kind of starts to automate some of like personal shopping and that kind of thing. But I found that honestly, a Google search is still faster. Like I was doing comparative shopping, trying to buy a football for my son. We need a very specific size, trying to get the best price. It came back with the same answer that I got in a 5-second Google search in 15 minutes. So like it's not quite there where it was saving me a ton of time, but you can see with improvement, it will be a time saver that when we actually set it against a business, this was a rather not important task. But as we set it against those recurring tasks, we will start to save time, absolutely.
Yeah. I want to get you guys' opinion on a commercial that's caught my attention recently. It's Salesforce, the largest SaaS product ever created, and Benioff's a pretty savvy cat, obviously. Out comes Agentforce, clearly this sub-brand that sits underneath the Salesforce. And they're in essence projecting that might be the future of their product or the future of their business as a whole. Have you guys seen the commercials? If so, have you had any thoughts about them? It's just interesting they're putting it out there. They're actually taking their name, repurposing it. Salesforce is a worldly, globally known name. Are they ahead? Are they the ones leading this charge right now commercially at that level, or is it just marketers doing marketing things?
I think it's a mix of both. I think Salesforce is adept. They're smart to be getting ahead of it because what's the bet? Let's say that agents go nowhere.
Yeah.
So what did they lose by this? They spent some money. They can afford it. It's asymmetric upside for them because if it is where the puck is going, and SaaS does take a hit. Now, it's not the death of SaaS. This is the thing I'm arguing against. People say agents are the death of SaaS. No, that's not true. But just like no-code was not the death of SaaS, no-code builders did impact SaaS. Maybe 10, 20, 30% of the SaaS apps that someone might buy today can be built in-house line of business apps with Airtable and Bubble. We do it ourselves at Microcom TinySeed. We canceled some subscriptions and just built it ourselves in Airtable. So I think agents will have a similar impact. Maybe they ding into SaaS 10%, 20%, 30%. They're not going to end it. In addition, it's just SaaS by another name. Who's going to build that agent? Probably a SaaS company, charge monthly for it. It's really just SaaS by a new name. So I think Salesforce is making a savvy bet. Dharmesh from HubSpot is also agent.ai, I believe. He's kind of forked that off. I don't know if HubSpot owns it or he does, but he's promoting it. And people are now building agents you can go in and kind of click around. So it's potentially where the puck is going, or it may wind up being an NFT situation where it's like, oops. But either way, they have the time and money to risk it, right?
Have Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey switched your opinions of Agentforce, or is it?
They were in the
Oh, that's a shame. Well, it's going to give you a reason to click a YouTube link. It's a very high level, top of funnel marketing, if you will. But they're just trying to create awareness around this because we can talk about it with some level of depth. But there's many of which are like, what the hell is an agent? I mean, we just got GPT. Like Rob said, well, maybe it's not so different than we think it to be.
I think it could affect the services industry too.
Good, yes.
And so like we look at the SaaS industry where, slight hit on no code. You could look at the services industry. It's $1 billion industry. Will some of these agents start to do the work that you were previously hiring outside help for? And then will they become recurring subscriptions, right? So will it really just be an expansion of SaaS into areas that we previously couldn't touch?
Okay, we've talked a little bit, Rob, over the past few episodes about man versus machine and such, but where do we draw the lines with AI automations and human-led strategy? Is there a clear objective truth, or is it shift for every business and every discipline within it?
I think today still humans have to drive the strategy. No matter what I do, so I can go into ChatGPT and I can say, pretend you're Rob Walling. I've said, someone downloaded all my stuff to train an AI engine and they said, do you know you've spoken more than 1 million words on your podcast? And I said, good Lord, no. But so there's stuff out there. ChatGPT can kind of mimic me, but even I will have it, I'll take a YouTube video I need to record, I know the title, punch it in, pretend you're Rob Walling, outline this YouTube video as Rob Walling would outline it. And it comes back to me and it's like 60%, 70% there, which, hey, it's better than starting from zero. Blank page syndrome sucks.
Yep.
But I still have to massage it and get it good, get it great. You know, it's kind of mediocre. If I recorded it as is, it's a 5 out of 10, right? It's kind of a mediocre. That's how I feel about like asking ChatGPT to do marketing strategy or sales strategy or any strategy. It's like a junior. It's asking a junior dev to architect a system. It's a junior intern. How are we going to do all this stuff? Like, it's not there yet. I'm not saying it won't get there. I don't know if or when it will. There's not that much data left to train all this stuff on. So we may be hitting returning. But for me, the high level strategy, the human element of intervening and doing that final check, even with something as simple as podcast show notes, we still do, right? We won't take AI generated notes and put them live because there's just enough hallucinations and mistakes.
Yeah. I mean, strategy and AI automation, where do you see it falling within Lead Pages? Is there a line you've objectively drawn in the sand or said, it'll float?
I mean, I think we're all trying to figure out where that line is. I think it can help to drive or fill in strategy, but again, it's only retroactive. It has this wealth of knowledge, but it also isn't predictive of where things are going just yet. And I don't know if creativity is its strongest suit. It can create images, it can create some weird stuff, but I don't know if true like creativity that creates a human connection is there yet. And when we're marketing, that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to tell a story. We're trying to tell a story that humans will relate to. There are other programmatic aspects of it. We want to show up on search. We want to hit the keywords. But at the end of the day, I have not yet seen a full outsource to AI that will beat a really creative, well-crafted human campaign.
Yeah, stories still win the day, and all these LMs are fed off of, you want to be part of that, the sources they're citing. Well, original thinking still wins out at the end of the day. Proprietary data that's unique to yourself is what wins out yet. So you're right, it's going to be a great subsidy for our work into the future, but it's not going to consume that. So humans, you're safe to some regard, right?
For now.
For now. As we get kind of towards the tail end of the episode, we talked earlier about 5 and 10xing one's impact. Rob, a lot of people are just overwhelmed by that thought. How about just 2xing their workflow? Where does a marketer or a founder start right now?
Yeah. In terms of, let's talk marketing specifically, because there are 6-7 departments in any given company, depending on the size, and so you can apply AI to all of them. But these days, in terms of marketing and content creation, like we almost never start, we being my team, almost never start from a blank page anymore. It is always let AI do the first draft. And usually, like I said, the first draft is maybe 50% of the way there, maybe a little more, depending. We have pretty high taste for the content we put out. So I think content generation is a big one, but the mistake people are making, of course, is they let AI generate content and then publish it. And it's like, no, that's garbage. It's like a mayonnaise sandwich. There's just nothing there. It's not unique, right? And then the other thing, I have done so much brainstorming with AI. I've written, I have I've published 2 books in the past couple of years, and I have written a third. And even just thinking about writing, what's the title of a book? It's a headline, right? It's the headline, the title plus subtitle is your headline. You want to grasp. So I want it to be really good. And the titles of these 3 books are better than the titles of any previous books because I sat there with ChatGPT for 2 hours. And I said, here are the chapters. Let's name it. Make it. You're an amazing copywriter. Pretend you're Leanna Patch or someone is a copywriter I know, and it's able to do it. So this ability to collaborate, which sounds so weird to say with this machine, I think has been a next level for me. And it's not just. It doesn't just save time, because usually titling books takes me weeks and weeks because you're agonizing over it. Yeah. I can do it in a few hours. It's not just saving me time. They're better. Yeah. It's better because of the collaboration.
Wow, that's powerful stuff.
And it doesn't have to be a title of a book. It can be a headline for a podcast. It can be a tweet. It can, you know what I mean? Yeah. Anything that's got to grab attention. I think saying generate 15 of these. As humans, we're better at saying, especially if you're a knowledgeable marketer, better at saying, these are the 2 best. We could probably agree if we had 15 headlines, the 2 or 3 that are the best. That's the tact I take these days.
Well, that's really good. Michael, 1 to 2x. How does a marketer or a product person, a salesperson achieve that today? I
think we've been using it a lot in product and filling in some of the gaps, right? So there's a lot of just considerations that you have to make, and we still need a human to be able to, that knows the product, that's able to outline those. But I find that if I have an idea, I might have a couple sentences on it, right? But I can actually expand that idea and then give the team some of the things to look out for, So what are the things that we really need to consider? I find that ChatGPT, generally what I've been using, is pretty good at outlining what we need to take into consideration, what are some of the key competitors, some of that research, and that gives me a better deliverable to my team. Then it saves them time in going out and doing the market research, doing the UX research, doing some of the, the rudimentary product work. And then they can focus on how do I actually make this a better version of it. Because we can all build a button, but how do I actually make it? Give it a little bit of that magic. They can spend more time doing that, less time worrying about the unhappy paths and some of the other outcomes that they need to account for.
All right, Rob, we gave you a stage because we want to share it with you in regards to all this great stuff, but there's so many resources and so many things you are doing to support founders, marketers. Take us through a little bit of some of the stuff that you're actively working on and that people can get, right along with you on your journey.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So folks are into YouTube and watching videos.
They are
as
here.
They presently are doing. They can head to microconf.com/YouTube, and I release a video. It's 26 a year, so every other week. And it's on topics of SaaS, but it's a lot of marketing, entrepreneurship, mindset, and then some very specific SaaS stuff. I just wrote my 5th book, published a couple months ago, called Exit Strategy. It's about considering selling your company, whether it's a consultancy, e-commerce, or a SaaS company. We walk through the mental side of doing that. And finally, I run TinySeed, which is the first startup accelerator for SaaS bootstrappers. And we are raising our 3rd fund. So if someone's watching this, they're an accredited investor and they want to index across dozens, if not hundreds, of early stage B2B SaaS companies, they can head to tinyseed.com/invest and fill out that form. It goes directly to my co-founder, and we're closing that fund here in the next few months.
Nice, congrats.
Yeah, exceptional. You said 212 funded to date, is that?
Yeah, 192 through TinySeed, and then I have 20 private. Yeah. So.
Goodness, try to become that 213th perhaps, to be part of Rob's
That's
world.
right, that's right.
The guys did it before, he's exited successfully, so why not follow along? Rob, it's been an absolute treat. On behalf of Michael and I want to thank you for your time, the knowledge you've shared with us as well, hopefully some actionable insights for the listeners and viewers as well in relation to their job and really to the future that's fast approaching us as well. So you good sir, thank you.
It's been my pleasure.